Will Kane, former DSA member, reveals what the organization is really like. Oh my God, they got infiltrators. It's awesome. So most of the commentary is just like DSA is ruining the party. DSA is ruining the party. Hasan is ruining the party. Real ever-present danger. I mean, now that we got infiltrators, former DSA members coming out and being like, this is why I left the party. They got too radical after October 7, all this shit. Just know that there is a lot of motion in this movement. Why I left the left, why I left the DSA. DSA is bad. Growing pains, everybody. It was inevitable that we would get our moment in the spotlight. And of course, the lights are going to get too hot. And I hope people can learn from my valuable experience in this field. I've had the spotlight trained on me as a tank for a decade almost, as someone who has been propped up as the singular vestige, singular arbiter of all things left on the internet. Now mainstream outlets are doing the same to DSA and myself as well. Okay? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. This is a good thing. We just have to be more disciplined than ever before. We have to do away with sectarian infighting. Or even if we have constructive critique for one another and self-critique as well, we have to still remember what this movement represents.
It's a question we've been asking all week. What does a future under democratic socialism look like? Well, my next guest spent years as a member of the DSA until 2022. And he says the direction they're going in is, quote, utopian. Joining me now is a former DSA member, Jake Altman. Jake, that's an interesting...
So Jake Altman been dropping your name 3 months ago? Yeah, no, his whole... what the fuck else I had? Ally supports Hezbollah, defends... What the fuck? Amir Makled lost the key union endorsement? I don't think he's talking about me. I think he's talking about Amir Makled. But even that is bullshit as well. But regardless... Jake Altman's entire point is I'm a former DSA guy and I hate the DSA. They're too radical, okay?
Word, because I would imagine that's considered a compliment in DSA circles, a utopian vision of the future.
Yeah, I think they probably think that, but the reality is very, very scary. At this point, a majority of the governing board is controlled by people who are explicitly communist.
So, yeah,
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Are you telling me that a socialist organization that has the word socialist in its name has socialist in its leadership structure? Hold on. Guys, what the f is going on? I'm confused. I'm scared. I've been a lifelong Democratic Socialists of America member, and this is causing me great panic and great distress. A socialist organization with socialists? What the hell is going on? I think this isn't a bad thing. I think this is a good thing. This is an important way for, even more radical elements of the Democratic Socialists of America to get more mainstream recognition. They will try to do everything in their power to say, this is radical, these guys are radical. This is an important moment for the DSA left and the DSA right to unite, okay? It's very important. If DSA right turns around and uses this as an opportunity, uses this kind of like sectarian infighting as an opportunity to gain even more power within the organization, they're silly and they're dumb and they should not do this, okay? This is how you destroy a larger big tent socialist movement. I don't think it'll happen regardless, because even the furthest right elements within the Democratic Socialists of America obviously were very critical of that one person who just came out of nowhere and was like, that one person on Twitter who was like, I joined DSA finally. And then a week later was like, I'm leaving DSA because the DSA needs to purge all of its tankies. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? The fuck do you mean? The fuck are you talking about? You can't just join an organization and immediately be like, we have to clean house. What the hell are you talking about? I guess the trash cleaned itself out. The fuck?
Our vision, that would be pretty dystopian. Why does that come as a surprise to you, Jake? I mean, if you remember the DSA, did you see some midway point between democratic socialism and...
Yeah, and the New York Times immediately put the beat on DSA as well. They found the person and interviewed them. Yeah, I saw this. The fact that Lefty Winter joined DSA 2 seconds ago and is already getting interviewed by the New York Times for an anti-DSA hit piece says everything we needed to know. That's a plant. Can't believe I'm doing an interview with a former AOC legislative aide with the New York Times who left DSA because of how they treated her. My New York Times call just ended, and it went very well. The three of us talked for over an hour, talked about what DSA could be doing instead, why we think DSA should split, AOC for president, electoral politics, our stories in the 2024 DNC speech about AOC and the online response. We talked about the ultra left. Really happy how it went. I don't know when the article will be out since he's trying to contact the AOC's folks and also other DSA folks who are on our side. We'll see. Plus, there's DSA convention coming up that this reporter will be attending. It'll be interesting. Let me tell you something, okay? She's not a plant. She's just goofy. I mean, plant or not, this is wrecker behavior, okay? This is what it is. The moment that you collaborate with a mainstream organ of propaganda in their hit piece against the Democratic Socialists of America is a moment where you become an op. You move on from useful idiot to opposition. That's just how it works. I've given plenty of interviews to the New York Times. I have interviews coming out with the Wall Street Journal, numerous other organizations, numerous other mainstream platforms, and you will never see me shit on the Democratic Socialists of America. It's totally ridiculous. This is opposition. People using what kind of, like, people using the fractional experiences that they have within the Democratic Socialists of America or the longstanding experiences they've had. Like, is this guy Altman, he was a part of DSA for a much longer time than this other person, right? Like, he just didn't like the direction that the DSA was going, which is become successful, okay? Become a real powerhouse within American politics. He didn't like that. He didn't like the organization was growing and becoming actually a successful organization. So he left, and now he tries to make a living off of shitting on left mobilization in this country.
Communism that you hope that they would land on?
When I joined 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago at this point, when I joined, it was a cozy, they were advocating for Scandinavian social democracy, right? And then over a 10-year period, we saw the organization just...
Oh, yeah, I was a social democrat. And I didn't like that democratic socialists were actually democratic socialists. Okay, got it. So much of the disagreements amongst the American left also revolve around American foreign policy. Anti-imperialism is, unfortunately, one of the biggest dividing lines within left movements. That's one of the biggest issues. And that extends to all matter of American exceptionalist thought, whether it be, what do we do about immigration? You know, these dirty third world masses are coming in to ruin the country. Like, that is an attitude that the right has, and that is a reactionary sentiment born out of white supremacist thought that maybe even some people within the ranks of socialists in the country also share some kind of like mutual resentment towards the masses that are coming from undeveloped countries, right? And the same goes for obviously principled anti-imperialist thought. Many people do not want to see a world where America is not the hegemonic superpower. Many people do not want to understand what that requires. Obviously, while I, on the one hand, talk about building a big tent movement or a mass movement, on the other hand, I also understand that you have to have some principles. Okay? You have to have some goddamn principles. We must always say the truth. We must always seek truth from facts, and we must always say the truth. Okay? You do not have to compromise on your values. You can obviously entertain a moral message, especially given the medium that you're occupying. But ultimately, you don't cast aside your values. You don't cast aside your moral compass.
Become more and more extreme and move from that cozy Scandinavian social democracy to really something quite frightening. They're advocating for communism in their latest platform they've released.
Yeah. You know, I'm old enough to remember that as well, Jake. I remember when people openly talked about Scandinavian countries as the model. You don't hear that anymore. You hear, about open embrace of communism and honestly, this weird as well embrace of Islamism.
What? Islamism, the open embrace of communism and Islamism is awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people in DSA are out with the whitewash brush right now, trying to tell people, trying to sell this line that it's just cozy Scandinavian social democracy. But the reality is very, very different. And yes, it's true. They have this alliance with extremism, right? They are extreme, and they have an alliance with very, very extreme pro-terror voices. And frankly, it's quite frightening.
So we've reported on that, what's been called the Red-Green Alliance, which is definitely a short-term arrangement between Islamic fascism and socialism. So you wrote, by the way, in the Free Press, I witnessed a rise in extremism ranging from the
Islamic fascism and socialism? Dog, you are literally a Christo-fascist. You are a Christian fascist network. The movement is Christian fascism. That is the real movement. There is no Islamic fascism growing in this country. I don't even know what they mean when they say Islamofascism. They just assume that like Zoran Mamdani or even someone like myself are actually trying to implement some sort of like Salafist regime in this country with Sharia as the law of the land. You know, it's racist ass Islamophobic tropes.
Eagerness
Bullshit.
to collaborate with Leninist groups to a growing animosity towards the United States and the West. My final departure was prompted by the DSA statement that attributed Russia's aggression against Ukraine to American imperialist expansionism. Jake, would you say that this change in the DSA, and we've had other people report on this, and it's moved towards both communism and the embrace of perhaps some radical Islam as well, belies just an underlying hatred of the West and America?
It absolutely does. I think these people have never met an enemy of America they weren't willing to fall down apologizing for. And we've just seen that again and again. We've seen that with Hamas. We've seen that with Russia. We see it with Maduro. We see it in Cuba. All of these authoritarian regimes, they are ready to apologize for them again and again and again. But it's America that they view as fundamentally evil, and it's just wrong.
Jake, do you look back on your time with the DSA now and think it got hijacked, or do you now look at it and say, really, there was no ideological break once you started moving towards socialism, and it was inevitably going to run into the hands of extremists? By the way, Jake, just like it has in most countries around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do see that either in situations like this, you either move in pragmatic direction towards pro-capitalist, social safety net, Scandinavian social democracy, which has a high degree of economic freedom. Or you move in this incredibly authoritarian way, right, where you get secret police, people being rounded up and brutalized. And I'm afraid that that's what we're seeing in DSA right now.
In America. Yeah. Well, Jake Altman, thank you for talking about it, and
yes.
Thank you about sharing with us that with us here today.
Do you understand why that allegiance is ridiculous, by the way? Why that commentary is ridiculous? They're talking about how the DSA wants to build like secret police, right? And they're gonna be Leninists. They're gonna do secret police. We already have secret police right now, and Fox News covers it on a daily basis and talks about how wonderful that secret police actually is. That's the issue. We already have it. We just have a fascist secret police. It's called ICE. Okay, that's what they're doing. We already have mass surveillance. You talk about China. You talk about Chinese mass surveillance. We already have it. Flock cameras. Okay? The problem is the West is taking some of the worst elements of Chinese governance and none of the good stuff. Okay? That's the issue. That's the problem. They choose to define China by some of the more repressive elements of Chinese governance, and they say that they oppose that, while simultaneously they do it here just under a fascist moniker. Do you understand? And it's also, it's unbelievably silly to say, oh, the DSA wants to both abolish police and also simultaneously have secret police. Which is it? Are they deeply unserious? Do they want to abolish? Or are they very scary and authoritarian? Are they anarchistic or are they authoritarian? Which is it? Very stupid. None of it makes sense. This is a train wreck for the Democratic Party. Victor Davis Hanson complaining about it as well. I mean, Sean Hannity promoting James Carville, socialist nightmare, more and more. Every damn night, they're talking about DSA is scary, Hasan is scary, AOC is scary. Let's look at one of the establishment. Let's look at establishment Democrat railing against their socialist counterparts. It's the same nightly show, day in, day out. We just have to keep pushing through this. And like I said, we have to become undeniable. Just do not back down. Do not actually concede on your opposition's framing on this issue. Do not. Okay? Support your comrades. Support your friends. Support those who are ideologically closest to you, whether they are to your left or to your right. Okay? Do not concede. We have to be unbroken, we have to be unbowed, and we will become undeniable.
Of his life obsessively hating all things President Trump, washed up Democratic.
Going back to what you were saying about Biden, you called the show back in 2020. This is from my debate with Larry Elder. Here, this is all the way back in this debate is from, I think it's from 2019, 2018.
Barack Obama throughout his entire presidency, and I criticize Hillary Clinton as well. I am not a hypocrite.
We're
afraid.
We're going to talk about another issue now,
Medicare for all. Are you kidding me?
Which is the
and you're a libertarian.
Which is
you want government to control medicine?
Let's talk about another issue, which is
that's insane.
Which is the issue of the Democratic primary now. This week we found out who are the 20 candidates that are going to be making it up onto the debate stage. This is a list of all 20 of them. By the way, all of them that have come on the issue are on the debate stage. So just candidates, good idea to come on the show. Sadly, for the candidates that are goose eggs, Steve Bullock, Mike Gravel, Wayne Nessum, and Seth Moulton, none of them met the criteria. I know many of our viewers are crying over that.
They will be missed.
Mike Gravel is an entertaining guy.
Where do you guys see the state of the race? Because I think you both might agree on something. Neither of you like Joe Biden.
Well, I'm not a fan of any of them.
Yeah.
Me either, except for Bernie. Maybe
do you like Elizabeth Warren?
Maybe I'll vote for Elizabeth Warren, but it's definitely the second best.
So if
option.
Joe Biden got the nomination and is running against President Trump, you would not vote for him?
I don't know. I've honestly considered moving up into the mountains and living an anarcho-primitivist lifestyle if Joe Biden becomes the Democratic nominee. I think Trump has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. But worse than that, even if Joe Biden wins, I think we go back to business as usual politics here in America. And next time around, it's not going to be Donald Trump. It's actually going to be an ideologically minded fascist, not a proto-fascist who kind of succeeded somehow. And
you have to remember, this is predating COVID, by the way. Yeah, this is before COVID. Obviously, the calculation shifted after COVID. But so it's not, it's pre-COVID. But the point I made remains. And I was right. I just thought it wouldn't be Donald Trump, but Donald Trump came back far worse than ever before.
So if Joe Biden got the nomination and is running against President Trump, you would not vote for him?
I don't know. I've honestly considered moving up into the mountains and living an anarcho-primitivist lifestyle if Joe Biden becomes the Democratic nominee. I think Trump has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. But worse than that, even if Joe Biden wins, I think we go back to business as usual politics here in America. And next time around, it's not going to be Donald Trump. It's actually going to be an ideologically minded fascist, not a proto-fascist who kind of succeeded somehow and fooled Americans for long enough to get into a position of power.
Yeah, people yelled at me at the time because I said I would become an anarcho-primitivist, which is obviously a joke.
But an actual terrifying leader.
Oh, my goodness. There was just a poll in Gallup, and they looked at Donald Trump ideologically. 17% believed that he was too conservative. 18% thought George W. Bush was too conservative. 38% think that Donald Trump's views are just right. 36% thought George W.'s views were just right. 39% thought both of them were too conservative. So the people perceive Donald Trump and George W. Bush to be almost mirror images ideologically. But I hear all this stuff about Donald Trump has changed the Republican Party, turned it into a party of cult. It's not true. People perceive them to be ideologically identical.
I agree with you on that. I 100% agree with you. I think and we talked about this outside, Donald Trump is a perfectly sound Republican, but also George W. Bush was a war criminal. So I don't like George W. Bush either.
All right, let's take a break.
War criminal.
Let's take a break. Let's let everybody cool down a little bit.
Remember?
Up next, we're going to talk about another issue that brings people together, the issue of homelessness here in California.
Cooking even back then, baby. When is your face going to grow back? I miss it already. Just get used to it, okay? You will get used to it eventually. If you close your eyes and listen to that guy Glaze Trump, it deadass sounds like Rubio. Denying Bush being a war criminal is insane. You mean saying Bush is a war criminal is insane, right? Because that's what he was doing. Because I said George W. Bush and Donald Trump are aligned in many respects. And that's a bad thing because George Bush was bad and he was a war criminal.
Strategist, my old pal, James Carville, has now discovered a much more pressing matter in his own front yard. Take a look.
These people are paternalistic, and it's a bunch of overeducated little white turds who think they know more than other people know.
He's literally talking about himself here. It's so funny. This is what establishment Democrats are. Overly educated, paternalistic white turds for the most part that masquerade as though they're like, they masquerade. Yeah, this is the bed that James Carville sleeps in with a Dick Cheney operative, by the way, his wife. He, literally sleeping with the opposition. That's number one. Number two, I don't know why he's like, just doing these from a increasingly more ridiculous outlet. Looks like he's in a casket already. Who's the skeleton? Is James Carville, Bill Clinton advisor, campaign manager.
And they know what's wrong. And they're going to go and then you got, they're talking about indicting Netanyahu. And that the problem is you have a candidate, a DSA candidate, New York, saying we should be against interracial dating. Let me tell you something. These people, and these are to all my black friends and people like me, they think they know more than you do. They think their history is more glorious than yours. They think that Lenin was a more glorious human being than Martin Luther King or Frederick Douglass. That's what they really think.
You got it. Where's this James been, by the way?
What do you mean, where's this James been? He's always been this right-wing asshole. What the hell are we talking about? So with MLK, he was a DSA, he was a Democratic Socialist, so he definitely was like somewhat anti-communist, even though he was pro-Ho Chi Minh, okay? As far as Frederick Douglass goes, I wonder what Frederick Douglass is, I don't know what his opinion was on the growing, because like the Republican Party in its formation, at its inception was created to abolish chattel slavery in the South and wage slavery in the North. So the Republican Party in its formation was like far more radical than its contemporary example. Obviously, they fought to abolish slavery and won. But the Republican Party in its initial formation was certainly not what the Republican Party has become now. And this is something that people often forget. So, or they just, they kind of don't even think about this at all. And of course, Karl Marx was very fond of Abraham Lincoln. Oh yeah, I had this link ready to go as well. Frederick Douglass and Karl Marx on the Paris Commune and the labor question in the United States. I mean, I don't really care about James Carville shitting on the left again. Who gives a fuck?
Good evening. Hope you're having a
dude. This guy, John Fetterman. Like the question you got to ask yourself. The question you got to ask your like liberal, self-identifying liberal family members, your neighbors, your friends, is this: who do you feel closer to? Zohran Mamdani, AOC, Democratic Socialists of America, or the likes of John Fetterman? Okay, it's that simple. I'm skipping Fetterman too. Virtually every liberal despises John Fetterman. So you should always present the question to these self-identifying Democratic establishment figureheads why they are repeating on Fox News half the time the things that John Fetterman says. That's the question I have for a lot of the establishment loyalists. Onion Person asks the same question. Do Democratic establishment loyalists that hate people like Jesse Waters ever take a step back and think about why they don't really hate establishment Democrats as much as they pretend to? Yeah, Jesse Waters. I kind of like her.
Mark from Erie, Pennsylvania, that Stick It To Him Ladies, Michigan's version of Tampon Tim. I don't know, I kind of like Stick It To Him Lady. I don't know, there's something about her. It's not that bad. Andy from Floral Park.
Yeah, of course he likes Stick It To Him Lady. 1959 Republican Party platform. Yeah, provide federal assistance to low-income communities, protect Social Security, provide asylum for refugees, extend minimum wage, improve unemployment benefits system so it covers more people, strengthen labor laws so workers can more easily join a union, assure equal pay for equal work regardless of sex. For the record, the reason why this was the Republican Party platform is because this predates the Reagan era. Okay? This is still the tail end of the New Deal Democrats, New Deal democracy, basically like running and dominating American politics for decades. Okay? That's why the Republicans were so conciliatory to the left message. That's why it feels like it's an entirely different reality. Okay? This doesn't mean that the Republicans were good. It's just that they had a far more progressive platform because they hadn't dominated American politics. Of course, past the point of Ronald Reagan, America does this right-wing neoliberal pivot. Bill Clinton obviously starts off with welfare reform, with like an incredibly right-wing platform, and we're still living in that environment right now. That's why there's tremendous growing pains. That's why there's tremendous growing pains right now, because there are forces in the opposition. There are forces in the opposition that are our movement. We are trying to do everything in our power to force back an opposition party to genuinely present a popular platform, a broad popular platform based around universality that will force the Republicans' hand by winning, by winning elections, by pushing for this agenda that is associated with democratic socialism, that causes people to really reconsider what socialism truly means, and that it's not this scary force in American politics, but one that actually seeks to address some of the material inequalities.
Tired of a set of people on the very far left in the Democratic Party, my party, telling us that in order for us to be progressives, we now have to believe ideas and support ideas that are completely nuts.
You got a set of defunding, decriminalizing, open borders. We have run that play and gotten our butts kicked. We don't need to do it a second time to see if it turns out, if the movie turns out any different.
Prominent Democrat voices pushing back on the growing influence of the Democratic Socialist candidates they say are ultimately going to hurt the Democrat Party. So let's talk about it with the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America, Megan Romer. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Shannon.
Okay, so there's this growing conversation about whether you can exist within the party, whether you want to upend it for your own purposes, a totally different platform. The Daily Economy quotes you saying this at a DSA convention last year. We will win by making conditions so intolerable for the ruling class that they would rather give in to our demands than continue to live with the disturbance we cause until we are able to fully seize power ourselves. Is that aimed at the Democrat Party?
It's aimed from the working class to the ruling class. So the two-party duopoly, the two corporate parties, it is aimed at both of them, and it comes from the working class.
So should Van Jones and Rahm Emanuel and James Carville and all of the establishment Democrats be worried about DSA plans from within their tent?
The establishment Democrats should be worried about the voters and about what the voters think and about what the constituency thinks. And right now they have not been delivering, and our candidates are and have been, and it's resonating with voters.
So Jamie Harrison, who was the DNC chair, after you guys had such a big night in New York City and knocking off some of those incumbents and having success with your candidates in the congressional primaries, he said, if you hate the Democratic Party, then don't run for our nomination. Don't use our resources. Don't rely on our volunteers. Don't use our infrastructure. Focus on building the party you act.
What's really funny about that is what infrastructure, what volunteers. We have the volunteers. We have the door knockers. You don't. You don't have any resources. Everything that the only thing that the Democrats can say that we're utilizing is Act Blue. That's it. It's just a payment processor. That's it. And I guess Van too. And there are alternatives in the works there too. So it's not. There is no infrastructure that we are relying on. If anything, you are relying on us. You are relying on our door knockers, our organizers, the people who actually do want to make change in this country, that reluctantly go and campaign for do-nothing Democrats over and over again, right? That's it.
Actually support. Other Democrats out there saying this is a separate party, the DSA. You don't belong within the party. How do you respond to his statements there?
Yeah, I mean, the two parties have over years and decades created a system where ballot line access is
For the record, even Van and Act Blue has material benefits when the DSA uses it, right? Because when you actually have Democratic Socialist door knockers and canvassers utilizing the Van system, that updates the system with new data. And that's part of the reason why the Democrats would never kill the access that its insurgent left flank has to these established this software that DSA uses as well. And the same thing goes for Act Blue. There's processing fees and things that we pay into that is beneficial for not only the DNC but the existing software and the payment processors to begin with. So even on that front, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, at least for the time being.
extremely difficult for third parties. I also have been told a lot of times by Democrats, don't vote third party, it's wasting your vote. So we run on the Democratic ballot line where it makes sense. We run independents sometimes where that is a viable possibility, but it's a ballot line. And what matters is what the voters think. And the voters are overwhelmingly choosing our candidates.
They certainly did in New York and in other places, Colorado and others. It's not just a big city phenomenon or just a blue coastal phenomenon. Sure. Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform. And I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that, as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution. It comes from the British House of Lords. It is made to protect power for, you know, the Senate was part of the system that was made to make sure.
I think the fast and easy answer to this is like Texas has the same level of say as Delaware. Why is that appropriate? Texas is a powerhouse, it's a red state. The Senate structure is unbelievably undemocratic. Its design is unbelievably undemocratic. We just want every state to have more of a say, including the populous red states, not just the populous blue states, but populous red states as well. That's it. Because there's plenty of big red states that are hubs of economic activity like Texas that you can compare to blue states that are not, right? If you're going on Fox News, you can make that argument. If you're going on MSNBC, you can make the opposite argument. California has more Republicans and Democrats than numerous other states combined, and yet they have the same level of influence within the Senate. It's not necessarily Senate abolition per se. It's more so just making a more democratic and more representative process. But once again, we can have disagreements on this stuff, but you're just trying to present this as like unbelievably silly. What's the benefit of abolishing prisons law? Great question. The current carceral structure is not designed around benefiting or like, okay, the question is this: what is the purpose of prison, right? The purpose of prison, theoretically, is supposed to cordon off bad individuals that have violated the rules and like broken some fundamental rules in society so that we can all continue living in society in harmony, right? Guys, stop. I'm explaining it to a normie and you're like, it's slavery. Yes, just shut the fuck up, okay? Just stop for 1 second. Jesus Christ. Thank you. The entire purpose of prisons in theory, okay? The entire purpose of prisons in theory is to create a more harmonious society. Societies have rules and regulations. There's a social contract. When someone violates those contracts, when someone violates those rules, we have to punish them. We have to cordon them off of regular society. And ultimately, the goal is supposed to be to rehabilitate them, because prisons are not supposed to be permanent. Like the purpose of a prison system is not to like permanently cordon off someone from society, unless they've done, you know, a heinous crime and it's virtually impossible for them to rehabilitate. But that's not the North Star, right? The whole point is when someone does something heinous, we take them away from civilized society so they can't continue doing harm. And the ultimate purpose of this is not to permanently torture these people, because it's not supposed to be about vengeance, right? It's supposed to be about justice. And justice is about ensuring that these people learn their lesson and they never commit the same wrongdoing ever again. So if that's the actual theoretical purpose of the prison system, how can you look at the American carceral system and say that this has been successful when we have an unbelievably higher recidivism rate in this country than all other civilized nations, all other developed nations, all other OECD nations? This means that the current carceral system in the United States of America has been disastrous, because our current carceral system in the United States of America cares little about ensuring that the rate of recidivism is lowered. What I'm talking about when I say recidivism, for people that don't know, is people who reoffend. They go to prison, they come out of prison, and they reoffend. People in the United States of America that like the current structure, that sometimes even have a financial investment in the continuation of this current torturous prison structure, say, oh, well, our rate of recidivism is terrible in this country. That means we just need to be more cruel. Okay, we need to be more ruthless in our prison system. This doesn't solve the problem at all. Look no further than Nordic-style democracies, okay, where their prison system is far more humane, and therefore they have a much lower rate of recidivism, of reoffending, a rate of reoffense in those countries. Okay? Well, I am not a prison abolitionist. I understand where prison abolitionists are coming from, and I believe that they're closer to the truth than the normal position in American society, which is like we need to throw away people and lock them up and torture them endlessly. That is insane. That is inhumane. That's incompatible with civilized democracy. And that's not something that other countries, even our Western allies or counterparts, actually are on board with. But if I were to steelman the prison abolitionist position, as someone who's done a decent amount of reading on this subject matter, from Angela Davis and onward, what I would say is this. Prison abolitionists believe that the overwhelming majority, if not damn near entirety, of all crime, even crime born out of antisocial personality disorder, is the root cause of all of that crime is material conditions. So if you solve the underlying material inequities, there will no longer be any need for the current carceral structure. Okay? That's it. Prison abolitionists do not believe in ending all prisons tomorrow. Prison abolitionists don't believe that. I'm not a prison abolitionist, but you have to be honest about what they believe. Prison abolitionists believe that we need to move to a healthier society where there is no more need for prison. Okay? That's not true. Okay. What's the prison abolitionist position then? I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
That the people didn't have too much of a say. So we want to expand Congress significantly, but make it a unicameral legislature.
Okay, and without the presidency and Supreme Court, so abolish ICE, would there be any enforcement of immigration laws, or with abolishing the border, we're not enforcing immigration laws, they go away?
Yeah, so again, this is part of this longer term plan, and part of it
But if you can get there.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get to the place where the U.S. is not destabilizing countries in order to mine them for resources, there will be significantly less migration.
What do you say to those, though, that would potentially destabilize the U.S.? Because there's only so much the economy can bear, and when you have a flood of people coming in, it might not work out economically, according to a lot of analyses, if you just open up the borders and there's no enforcement at all.
Well, we're not saying open the borders tomorrow. We're saying rebuild an economy
eventually.
and a society that works for everyone. And the open borders is part of a longer-term international plan that involves us stopping destabilizing countries. Most people who are coming to this country are coming as economic refugees, and we destabilized their country. We did that.
Well, a lot of, if you look at data, the Center for Immigration Studies says right now the households here in the U.S. that are headed up by people who are here illegally, nearly 61% of them are on some type of government or welfare program here in the U.S. Can we afford to do that? I mean, at some point you run out of resources.
Well, right now, we make it very difficult for people to participate in society.
That's bullshit. Center for Immigration Studies is an insanely white nativist outlet. It's an unbelievably racist shop. And their numbers are always wrong. Remember, outside of Cato and Brookings, most of the think tanks that hyper focus on immigration are just like super white nativist and objectively lying all the time. Okay? The thing that they complain about as far as welfare goes is American citizens. They're just cordoning off American citizens that happen to be children of either undocumented migrants or tourists or, legal permanent residents as undocumented migrants themselves. Is fundamentally at odds with birthright. Those are American citizens. Undocumented migrants can't take advantage of the social safety nets. We already have an issue with social safety nets in this country. We don't really have a bountiful social safety net here at all. The strain that undocumented migrants put on the American social safety nets is negligible. It's not real. It's bullshit. It's made up.
In such a way that they can avoid using services. So we want people to be able to work and live and go to school and actually participate, which means contributing to society and also getting what they need from society. It's a collective choice we can all make.
So if we talk about abolishing prisons, then does that make society better? I mean, is there anybody that should be incarcerated? I mean, rapists, child predators, murderers?
Yeah, so the long-term plan, when we think about most people who are in prison, they are mostly in prison for crimes of poverty. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really, the murders and rapists of the world. So when we get rid of this need for crimes of poverty to exist, when we get rid of that destabilizing force that creates so many people who are living in desperate situations and doing desperate things, that brings those numbers down to very small numbers, and then we can collectively decide what we do with those people. I suspect it won't look like the prison system as we know it today.
Okay, but you do think some people need to be locked away from society?
Some people are not able to be functional members of society. That's true. But what does that look like to keep the rest of us safe? We're talking about safety. We're not talking.
Yeah, I think this is where my ultra instinct kicks in, where I'm like, oh, I want to put people in prison. I do. Prison is about rehabilitation. It's supposed to be about rehabilitation. Unfortunately, in this country, it's about enacting some sort of like false draconian sense of vengeance. Having said that, however, I mean, I'd put a lot of people in prison. I'd put a lot of, Trump, the Epstein class. There's definitely a lot of hucksters and fraudsters and charlatans that are currently being defended by Fox News that I would love to put behind bars. We have to live in a society with law and order. I'm a firm and committed believer in law and order, baby. I would put 10 CEOs poisoning the water supply in exchange for the one mother who had to go to prison for stealing $14 so she could pay for her son's diapers. Currently, in American society, that's who we jail. We jailed a little guy. We jailed a working class stiff. We jailed a dispossessed who's gotten over and over again. Meanwhile, the real criminals at the tippy top get to design the rules and get away with violating the same rules that they wrote anyway. Those are the people who should be in prison.
About punishment, we're talking about making sure that we're safe, everybody's safe, everybody maintains their dignity, and everybody maintains their humanity.
Okay, so much more to discuss. I hope that you will come back, especially as we figure out what the party does with respect to you, meaning the Democrat Party, in your role in it, and in 2028 especially. Megan Frommer, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Prison is a construct, right? Not a place is different than jail. Whatever, man. I'm using prison and jail interchangeably and colloquially, okay? I know. I want long-term involuntary commitment for financial criminals, okay? Put them in whatever the fuck you want to call it. I think it says a lot about our priorities, who we choose to jail and who we choose never to prosecute at all.